What's good, y'all? Listen, quick message for you real quick before I go into this gym. I want to talk to y'all about accountability of self. Taking accountability for self. A lot of our childhoods, we ain't had no control over that shit. No matter what happened to any of us, like, we had no control over that shit. We were supposed to be protected by the ones that, our parents, our quote unquote family, and all of those supposed to be responsible adults. You know what I'm saying? You don't have no control over that. But where your accountability comes in at is when you become an adult. It took me years because I held on to, these grudges and shit, and rightfully so. Rightfully fucking so. I held on to certain shit that happened to me as a child and my traumas and shit like that. Like, I held on to that shit. It's something about pain. It's weird as fuck, like, but it's like what our traumas are and what hurt us and shit like that and what we went through as kids. You tend to hold on to that shit because it's kind of like, even though it hurt me, it made me feel a way about certain shit. If I hold on to it, I won't forget. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you don't understand that when you do that shit, you're really hurting yourself in the long run. So I had to spend years to learn to forgive people, to learn to move the fuck on. And the kicker part for me was when I became an adult, I had to take control over my own life. There was no more blaming mom and dad. There was no more of any of that type of shit. I had to grow into the woman that I'm becoming. Still, learn how to cope with the traumas that I had. And it's tough. Because a lot of times when you go through that phase, you don't have no guidance. You ain't got no guidance. And when you try to go to certain people to talk shit out and, get to the bottom of things, they have yet to take accountability for shit. You feel me? So you're just going to find yourself pissed the fuck off even more because you're like, okay, a lot of denial, all kinds of shit. And you have to learn. That's why I said I know it's by the grace of God for me. By the grace of God that I had to learn to release all of that shit. You don't forget it. You don't forget it. You don't forget how you felt. You don't forget any of that. But you have to release that shit so you can grow. You can't harbor on those things. And so as an adult, you have to take accountability for your life. At some point, you can't blame nobody for shit. That shit will eat you alive. And I'm so thankful that I was able to figure that out. Like, because I was so pressed on, this is how I feel, and that's that. And no one's wrong for how they feel about anything. You feel how you feel. You ain't wrong for that shit. But you got to understand that at some point, if you don't learn to move the fuck on from it, it's going to eat you alive. It's going to eat you alive. And you're not going to be able to tap into your life. You're not going to be able to answer your calling or tap into your destiny the way you should because you're harboring on shit that you need to release. You need to release that shit. In my adult life, things and situations that I was in, fucked up relationships I was in, being friends with people who turned out didn't have my best interest at heart the way that I had theirs. You have to learn to take accountability because certain motherfuckers shouldn't have been around no way. certain relationships you shouldn't even have got into. But even if you did, when you seen that, you seen all them red flags, you should have walked the fuck away, and you didn't. Certain places and environments you stayed in too long. You was supposed to depart and, get that certification, and you didn't, and all kinds of shit like finances. I ain't had nobody teach me that shit. I had to learn that on my own. Not no expert, you know what I'm saying? But I do way better now than I did in the past. I didn't have no guidance, you know what I'm saying? But it's you have to take accountability, and you have to learn to let go of that pain. You have to learn to let go of that pain. And I feel like a lot of times we hold on to things that hurt us because it's like, even though it hurt, you don't want to forget it. You don't want to forget it because you don't want to see yourself going through it again. You feel me? And what I'm talking about in this video is completely way easier said than done. Man, I'm sitting here thinking about my life. It was a constant tug of war in my mind, a constant tug of war in my heart and my emotional well-being. It was just a constant tug of war. I had to learn to forgive when a part of me at one point was like, fuck that, I'm not forgiving nothing, but I had to learn. Spirit had to sit me down and be like, Jarabika, you only hurting yourself. I know it hurt. I know you felt some type of way. But sweetie, you are only hurting yourself at the end of the day. I need you to tap into yourself in a way, because I gave you a gift and you can't operate in your gift if you harboring on shit that you were supposed to let go of. You can't grow into the woman I need you to become because you're harboring onto shit that you should have let go of. And it's like, when you go through that process, it's like bittersweet. It's like a strain and a relief at the same time type shit. Like, it's kind of hard to explain, but those of you who've done it, it's like, man, you know what I'm saying? But you have to, at some point during your adult life, take accountability for self, your decisions and your actions. And it's not to beat yourself up about. We all make mistakes. A lot of life is trial and error, you feel me? And you're going to constantly grow until, Spirit call you on back home. You're going to constantly grow. You're going to constantly make mistakes here and there. You're not going to dot every I and cross every T. But it don't make you a bad person. It don't mean that you're not progressing in life. The ones who show no progression, the ones who don't grow, are the ones who just sit. That's when it's bad. It's when you're just sitting there and all of that shit and you're not moving. That's when you can say you failed at some shit. You see what I'm saying? But as long as you keep trying, it's not about impressing people. Because fuck impressing people. It's a lot of people who ain't even impressed with themselves. But it's about you and your growth. You know what I'm saying? You got to take accountability in your adult life. And you got to figure out where you went wrong. And you got to figure out how to fix it. Nothing beats a fail but a try. And this process that I'm talking about is going to take a minute. That's why it's like the sooner you tap in, the better off you'll be. Like, you'll become who you're supposed to be, who Spirit needs you to be. You got to let go of that shit and take accountability for your life. Don't beat yourself up about it. But you have to be able to look yourself in the mirror and figure out where you went wrong. And figure out also why you made those decisions. What about you? You know, your mental, your emotional state. Figure out why you made those decisions. Why you went down that path. What made you go down that path? That's all you can do, but you have to take accountability for your life.